This is Beyond a Reasonable Doubt with your hosts, Mark Garrigus and Gary Smith.
GPS, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Mark?
I feel a sense of the finish line, so to speak.
Whatever could you be referring to? I know you can't answer that question because there's something that rhymes with a JAG order, but I'll screw with you nonetheless.
I almost am tossing my own softballs and watching you just bash me in the face.
Well, look, Harvey can't have all the fun. I mean, I've got to be able to screw with you a little bit as well. It wouldn't be the weekend if I wasn't messing with you.
It's exactly true. It's exactly true. Before we get we'll end with that. And the penultimate story I want to talk about is birthright citizenship and nationwide injunctions. But we've had a couple of what I would consider more lighthearted stories, haven't we, this week that we've exchanged some videos on?
Yeah, I mean, there certainly have been several, and you and I have various text chains, so I'm not exactly sure what you're referring to because we've got, just the one with you and I. We've got the ones with other work colleagues, so I'm not positive what you're referring to. But
we could talk in a second about Newsom suing Fox News, which fascinates me as well.
That one's definitely high on my list.
Okay, maybe we start with that because it's fascinating me. I really, we on Two Angry Men, I was talking about that with Harvey, and I think I understood going into that, and he did not surprise me as to where Harvey was going to be. You, however, as I was talking with him, I was thinking, I wonder where Gary comes out on this.
I've listened to Two Angry Men from this week, which you can find anywhere you get podcasts. It's Mark and Harvey Levin, the founder and owner of TMZ. They have their podcast each week. I aligned a lot more with you. I mean, the 787 number, which is what Gavin Newsom sued for, is certainly a red herring to me and makes it very much just a headline grabber and a press release, for lack of a better term. I read the lawsuit. I read the whole thing, and it doesn't seem like a serious action to me.
Well, for those who aren't in the weeds yet, Gavin Newsom hired private lawyers to sue Fox News for a variety of causes of action regarding their publication of and story by Jesse Waters about a clip that they did on Gavin Newsom supposedly talking to Trump or not talking to Trump.
Right. It's a whole in the weeds thing of basically on June 6th or 7th, depending on which side of the coast you were on. Trump and Newsom had a 16-minute phone call where, this was before all of the rioting broke off in Los Angeles. That was in the days following. And then on the 10th, a reporter asked him in a pool spread in the Oval Office and said, Trump, President Trump, when was the last time you spoke to Governor Newsom? And he said a day ago. And when Jesse Waters played the clips in the subsequent days on his shows on the 11th or 12th, he edited out the words a day ago and made it seem like President Trump had spoken to Gavin Newsom, more recently or less recently rather than it had. And there's a whole thing about Trump giving a different Fox News reporter a timeline of events and a call log. And it all just, the minutia of it seems ridiculous, especially when you consider the numbers being thrown around for penalties.
Right. And the $787 million, for those who didn't catch that, was the amount that supposedly Dominion electoral systems settled with Fox News on the eve of trial. Also in Delaware, after a Chancery Court judge had compelled discovery and had given every indication that this thing was going to trial, blah, blah, blah. And my position, as Gary well knows, is that it's theater and optics, and that this thing is dead on arrival for a variety of reasons, not the least of which that I don't understand. I understand the calling of a liar, but if that isn't core political speech in that context between the sitting president and the putative or at least presumed one of the top three contenders for the 2028 presidential election, I don't know what is.
No, I don't either. And I think the one thing that I did enjoy out of all of this was the press outlets that were going and doing political gymnastics to figure out a way to write a headline that I saw that made me chuckle, that said that Newsom was suing Fox because something in his lawsuit was suggesting that Trump was in a cognitive decline and couldn't know what day it was. And it's just like, I read the lawsuit after seeing that headline, and it's like, wow, you gotta really be stretching to kind of get to that, to writing that headline. Yeah,
it's something. And it made me think also, why would, if it wasn't theatrics, why would Newsom sue in Delaware, which is where the election case was? Because if you're Gavin Newsom and you're thinking of, and by the way, one of the things a lawyer does, and will lead us into nationwide injunctions in a second with SCOTUS this week, is one of the things you do as a lawyer is, where do I file my case? Is it federal? Is it state? Which state? Where is there's a lot of calculations that you have to do in terms of that. And especially in this area of the law, you have to understand, is there SLAPP, anti-SLAPP, those kinds of calculations. And am I going to get removed? Am I not going to get removed from state court to federal court? I can't imagine that somebody didn't advise the governor, hey, you know what? The best place you could ever sue Fox News, number one, would be California. And by the way, that's, California, traditionally a very dark blue state. Fox News traditionally thought of as a red state mainstay. Number one. Number two, you're the governor of the state. And as the governor of this state, you happen to guess what comes with the governorship? The ability to appoint judges. And I hate to be crass about it, but when you're suing the governor, you have to understand that, 9 times out of 10, the judge you're in front of, when you're suing the governor, may have either been appointed by the governor or may want higher office. And guess who gets to elevate you to higher office? So if you're a plaintiff and you're the governor, I would think that, by the way, last time I looked, Fox does business in LA County, has a bureau there, and you either there or in San Francisco, and either one of those jury panel, veneer panels, that's a great area to be in, number one and two. And if you were really serious about this case, how would you not file it in California?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, the fact that this was filed in Delaware and that it took us 3 or 4 hours to get a hold of the lawsuit, both were red herrings to me. It just does not seem like this is a serious thing. It seemed like this was designed for headlines, and I found 15, 20 versions of the headline before I was able to get my hands on the lawsuit. And that is definitely not something that would have been the case if it had been filed in California. And, when I say we couldn't get our hands on the lawsuit, it wasn't just, Google searches. We were reaching out directly to Newsom's team, and we could not figure this out. And that just, to me, just does not indicate that this is a serious thing. But nonetheless, he got the headlines. So, maybe mission accomplished if that was really what he was going for.
Right. And speaking of which, and I segued into it, we had a big decision, I think it came out yesterday, which was SCOTUS basically ending nationwide injunctions. And the backdrop of that is that it was against birthright citizenship. So the SCOTUS kind of sidestepped birthright citizenship in the 14th Amendment and dealt with the issue in a more Chief Justice Roberts fashion, even though the opinion was written by Amy Coney Barrett. And what they said is that when you sued plaintiff and you were looking for relief, that if in this case it was somebody with a small child or who's pregnant, making that relief nationwide did not give the plaintiff and more of relief. It didn't complete the relief. That was kind of the analysis. And therefore, why do you need a nationwide injunction? Once again, it's always be careful what you wish for. This was a technique that has been used by both sides of the aisle whoever the opposition is at the time, whether it's Republicans in a Democratic administration, Democrats in a Republican administration. You then, the calculation is, where do I file this case? Where am I going to get, back when you could do prior to this ruling on Friday, where am I going to get the best draw from a district court judge that I can then get a nationwide injunction? And look, surprise, surprise, you can create policy or affect change with a nationwide injunction, which the SCOTUS, if you read the opinion, also recognized. And that was part of the reason for curtailing this idea of district court judges making pronouncements or issuing decisions that had a nationwide effect.
Yeah. I mean, it was a 6-3 decision, if my reading is correct. You're or my memory. Right. And yeah, my reading of the different articles that I've seen on this are painting it as a giant, win for Trump. But I'm not necessarily sure that that's entirely the case. I think that it's, a lot more nuanced than a lot of the reporting has been suggesting.
And I think one of the things that you're going to see coming out of this is that, and I think it was already, I was watching today, you're going to see a revitalization of class action in the federal court, because if you now can't get a nationwide injunction, where does that urge to get have a larger effect go to? And I think what that would be a class action. So you're going to see people utilizing class actions, I think, very quickly, if not already, in order to get around kind of this. And so that's the legal jujitsu that is going to come about.
Yeah, absolutely. Last week we talked about Fat Joe. I think we sure did,
and come on, Gary, we were prescient.
We were.
Yes. I set it up.
So we were in the moment last week attempting to figure out who the attorney for the hype man, and I haven't been reading the comments, but I'm sure there are some about how I described a hype man and whether or not my.
Yeah, there was a good one. Somebody who should win some merch, as I remember, too.
Well, tough for them because I haven't seen it, but maybe Mark will find it and send it to me. But in the moment, Mark was trying to get me to figure out who the attorney for the accuser was, the hype man in question, and that we've now discovered is Tyrone Blackburn. And they're accusing Fat Joe of engaging in all kinds of sexual misconduct, and there's minors involved in the allegations and stuff like that. And since we have identified Tyrone Blackburn as the attorney, he has made headlines, at least in the pages of TMZ, for allegedly mowing down a process server who was attempting to serve him with something from Fat Joe's attorney, who I believe is Joe Tacopina. Is that correct?
It is Joe Tacopina. So there's a lot of friends of show involved here, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I would hope and suspect future guests of Reasonable Doubt and or Two Angry Men if I'm looking into the future a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And that arrest took place, and as I think there were all kinds of accusations flying back and forth, but I'm sure Joe T will have something to say about it, and we'll bring him on one or the other, or who knows? Maybe there'll even be an article in LA Mag follow up on the Joe T portion of this.
Well, I think that'll be up to me, but I mean, never know. I kid, Mark. No, if ever you were otherwise indisposed or out of the country and something unfortunate were to befall me, I would be phoning up Joe Tacopina first and foremost, because he seems very, very talented and competent at his job. And if I were Fat Joe, I would feel very, very comfortable having him in my corner.
Yeah, in fact, I was walking in New York yesterday and walked by a Ray-Ban giant promotional, whatever you want to call it. It wasn't quite a billboard, but
sure, just advertisement.
Yeah, and who was there? A$AP Rocky, and it's
he's doing the national campaigns. It was kind of about 15 minutes between his acquittal and the TMZ stories about all the national campaigns that he had reacquired that maybe he had slipped away during his trial. But yeah, Joe not only cleared him, but cleared him right back to the path of lucrative endorsements and a very, very strong career.
Yeah, and by the way, that. I've often talked about somebody like the original Ray Donovan, who was the labor secretary, I believe, under Ronald Reagan, who, when he was acquitted, stood on the courthouse steps and famously said, "Where do I go to get my reputation back?" Well, we're in an age where you can make a comeback. Yeah, it was a great line. It's been memorialized. And now, unfortunately, most people, when I say Ray Donovan, if they're old enough, think about the Ray Donovan series on... the
Liev Schreiber series from Showtime. And, I won't tell you the nickname that I have amongst close friends that is associated with that series, at least on the air. But you ask me off the air, I'll tell you.
Okay. Or maybe we'll give a merch if you could, the first person who posts a comment.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Austin Chandler, have fun.
Yeah. Well, I love it. Thank you, Gary. This has been, it's fun to see you, and hopefully I'll see you within the next couple of days.
I hope so too, Mark. Can I do a Harvey thing and ask a question that you're absolutely not allowed to give the answer to?
Sure. Why not? Torture me.
All right. Well, I will go easier on you than he would. Just for fans of this show, they will know that Mark's theory is always Friday at about 3 p.m. is when a jury tends to come back. Mark, if I were to inform you that Friday is a national holiday, where would you adjust that date to for a theoretical case that might have a jury deliberating next week? Would you say
Thursday at 3 Eastern, maybe if you wanted to get a jump on the weekend, it would come late morning, but Thursday would be my best. If there's a median date, it would be Thursday sometime after 11:30 a.m.
Yeah. See, I was going to put it at about 1:30 because I think that people do want their 4-day weekend and or 3.5-day weekend, as the case may be. But I tend to agree with you quite a bit. I will not torture you the way Harvey did. Thank you so much for making some time for us on a weekend, and we will see you next week, where hopefully you will be much more unencumbered, and I can ask you the questions I really want to ask you, and we can dive deep into the weeds and let you speak freely.
You appreciate it, Gary. Thank you. Good to see you.
You too, Mark. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Reasonable Doubt. Subscribe on YouTube at youtube.com/Reasonable Doubt Podcast.